The rain was relentless, drumming against the windshield of Tom Brady's black Escalade like 1,000 tiny fists. Parked at the edge of a dim Boston street, he stared straight ahead, his jaw tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Across the sidewalk, just beyond the glare of the street lamp, a barefoot boy in rags stood hunched beside a cardboard sign that read, "I can fix broken things." Tom had seen 1,000 panhandlers in his life. This one was different. "Daddy," whispered a small voice from the back seat. "Can we help him?" Tom turned, meeting his daughter Vivian's eyes in the rearview mirror. Her legs, still and wrapped in a blanket, hadn't moved in 8 months, not since the accident. She was only 10. He opened the door without thinking. Rain soaked his hoodie as he stepped out, slamming the door behind him and walking toward the boy. "You wrote that sign?" Tom asked, squinting through the downpour. The boy, maybe 12, with olive skin and sharp eyes that looked much older than they should, nodded. "Yeah." Tom hesitated. "You fix what, bikes, toys?" "No," the boy said, raising his chin. "I fix people." Tom almost laughed. Almost, but something in the kid's voice froze him. "I saw your daughter in the back seat," the boy continued, his voice steady. "She doesn't walk." Tom's face hardened. "You spying on us?" "No, I just see things other people don't." Tom exhaled sharply. "Look, kid, my daughter's been through every doctor, therapist, even specialists in Zurich. It's her spinal cord. It's not something you fix on a street corner with whatever this is." The boy didn't flinch. "I'm not asking for money, just 10 minutes, one chance." A gust of wind shoved Rain sideways. Tom turned, ready to leave, but then he saw her, Vivian, face pressed against the window, eyes wide, watching. He looked back at the boy. "What's your name?" "Diego." Tom stared. What the hell was he doing? Letting a stranger near his daughter? Still, what if... "You have 5 minutes." Inside the SUV, the heater hummed softly. Vivian looked up as Tom opened the door, motioning Diego in. "Viv," he said gently. "This is Diego. He wants to talk to you." Her eyes flicked to the boy. She gave a small nod. Diego sat beside her, soaked and shivering. He said nothing for a moment, just looked at her legs beneath the blanket. "Do they hurt?" he asked softly. "Sometimes," she whispered. He placed his palm near her ankle, not touching. His hand hovered. "Can you feel this?" She nodded faintly. "That's good," he said. "That means part of your connection is still alive, like a wire that isn't broken, just tangled." Tom leaned forward. "How do you know that?" But Diego ignored him. He closed his eyes, his other hand rose, trembling slightly. And then, to Tom's disbelief, Vivian gasped. "I felt that," she whispered. "I felt it move." Diego opened his eyes. He was pale now, breathing hard. "She's not broken, just blocked." Tom stared, his pulse thudding in his ears. "I can teach her," Diego said, barely audible. "But I need your trust. And a week." "A week?" Tom almost laughed again. But Vivian's voice cut through the air. "Please, Daddy." Outside, the rain began to fade, as if holding its breath. If you want to know what Diego's hiding, what happens in that 1 week, and whether Vivian will walk again, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Your voice matters more than you think. The next morning, Diego sat on a wooden stool in Tom Brady's immaculate kitchen, dripping water onto the tile floor from his washed but still damp hoodie. He had slept in the guest house, an awkward last-minute decision after Vivian refused to go to sleep until her father agreed to let the boy stay. Tom stood across from him, arms crossed, while Giselle lingered in the hallway, uneasy. The tension in the house was palpable, and Diego could feel it tightening around him like invisible wire. "I let you stay one night," Tom said, voice calm but guarded. "That doesn't mean I believe in miracles." Diego didn't respond right away. He reached into his backpack, pulling out a worn notebook, its edges frayed and pages water-stained. "This isn't about miracles," he said, flipping to a page filled with odd hand-drawn diagrams, parts of the human body, nerve pathways, pressure points. It's biology and rhythm. Tom raised an eyebrow. What are you, some kind of self-taught neurologist? I watch people, Diego replied, since I was little. Since I can see where things are stuck, where the body's trying to speak but the brain doesn't know how to listen. You understand, Tom said slowly, that real neurologists, people with decades of experience, couldn't fix this. Yes, Diego said, because they don't feel it. They look at scans and charts. I listen. Tom stared at him, something flickering behind his eyes. A mix of skepticism and curiosity. Vivian rolled into the room, her wheelchair quiet on the hardwood. She wore her favorite hoodie, light blue, with tiny dolphins swimming across the front. Her hair was pulled back into a ponytail. Hi, Diego, she said. He gave her a small smile. Morning. Tom turned to his daughter. Sweetheart, we're just talking. I want to do this, Vivian said before he could finish. Her voice was soft but firm. Tom glanced at Giselle, who stepped forward, finally speaking. Tom, maybe it's not about whether we believe him. Maybe it's about what she believes. Silence. Finally, Tom turned back to Diego. You said a week. What does that look like? Diego straightened in his seat. 1 hour each morning, 1 hour each night. No interruptions, I'll guide her. Show her how to listen to the signals. The rest of the time she needs rest, good food, and no screens. No screens, Vivian groaned. No distractions, Diego said gently. You'll need to feel everything. Tom let out a long sigh. And what do you want in return? Diego's expression didn't change. Nothing. Just a chance and maybe some food. Tom looked at him for a long time, then nodded. Okay, 1 week. That night, as the sun set over the Charles River and golden light spilled across the living room floor, Diego began the first session. Vivian lay on a yoga mat, her legs stretched out in front of her. Diego knelt beside her, one hand placed lightly on her shin, the other near her knee. Close your eyes, he said. Don't try to feel anything, just listen. Tom sat silently across the room, pretending to read a book, but watching every move. A minute passed. 2. The room was still. Then, Vivian's eyebrows lifted slightly. There's something? A buzzing? Good, Diego said. Follow it. Let it get louder. I think I can feel my toes. A little. Tom blinked, nearly dropping the book. Diego opened his eyes. He didn't smile, he looked exhausted. That's enough for tonight, he said. Vivian's face glowed, and for the first time in months, so did Tom's. By the 3rd day, the house had begun to shift around Diego. It wasn't just the schedule or the hushed way everyone walked when he was working with Vivian. It was the air itself. Lighter, less heavy with helplessness. Tom noticed it first. Vivian was laughing again. Not just polite giggles or forced smiles, but real, belly-deep laughter, like when Diego mimicked the posture of a flamingo or pretended her toes had become secret agents receiving coded messages. Tom found himself standing at the edge of rooms just to hear it, but he still didn't trust it. Where did you learn this? He asked that night after a session. The kitchen was dark except for the dim light above the stove. Diego was eating quietly, scrambled eggs and toast, prepared by Giselle, who had begun leaving small meals for him without a word. I didn't learn it, Diego said without looking up. It's just how my mind works. Tom leaned against the counter, arms folded. That's not an answer. Diego finally looked at him. I didn't grow up in a home like this, or in any home really. I stayed with different people, some nice, some not. But I always noticed patterns, in the way people moved, talked, the way they got sick, or got better. Tom studied him. And you just started touching people and they felt better. I started listening to them in ways no one else did, Diego said. Their bodies, I mean. Sometimes pain isn't just where it hurts. It's where it started, where it hid. Tom hesitated. Where did your pain start? Diego's eyes dropped. He didn't answer. The next morning, Vivian managed to wiggle 2 toes, on command. It was enough to bring tears to Giselle's eyes. Tom had to step out of the room, overwhelmed. That afternoon, Vivian asked Diego a question that neither parent had dared to. "Where do you sleep when you're not here?" Diego paused. "Usually in a shelter or a train station. I find quiet places." "But you're just a kid." "I'm 12. Still." Diego looked at her. "I do fine." Vivian tilted her head. "Why don't you live with your parents?" "They couldn't take care of me." A long silence passed. Vivian reached out, placing a small hand on Diego's arm. "You can stay with us for a while. I'll ask my dad." Diego looked down at her hand. He didn't move. That evening, Tom found Diego in the backyard, sitting on the grass with his notebook. The boy was drawing a spiral of arrows that led from the spine to the toes. No words, just lines and numbers. Tom sat beside him. "You scare me a little, you know that," he said. Diego didn't look up. "I know. Not because I think you're dangerous, but because part of me is starting to believe you." Diego finally met his eyes. "She believes. That's why it's working. And what if she starts believing in something that ends up breaking her heart again?" Diego turned back to the notebook. "Then she'll be stronger than before." Tom stared at him, unsure whether to feel angry or in awe. Vivian called from the porch. "Diego, it's time." He stood, brushed grass off his jeans, and walked toward her without another word. Tom stayed behind alone with the fading sun and a mind full of questions. He had let a beggar boy into his house. But now, the boy wasn't just in his house. He was in his daughter's future. On the 5th day, something changed. Diego didn't come downstairs for breakfast. Giselle knocked on the door of the guest house, but there was no answer. When Tom finally unlocked it with the spare key, he found the room empty. The bed untouched, the window slightly open. Diego was gone. Vivian refused to speak the rest of the morning. She stared at her legs, her toes unmoving, her hope suddenly fragile again. The progress she had made now felt like a dream dissolving in daylight. "He left," Tom said quietly, pacing the living room. "He's a street kid. He doesn't belong here. Maybe he never did." "No," Vivian whispered. "He wouldn't just leave me." But by afternoon, even Giselle had to admit it. The boy had disappeared. Until evening. Tom was walking back from a coffee run when he spotted him, Diego, huddled beside a dumpster behind a convenience store 3 blocks from the house, a small cut above his eye and dirt on his sleeves. "Hey!" Tom shouted. Diego flinched, trying to get up, but winced and sat back down. Tom crouched beside him. "What the hell happened?" "I went back to check on someone," Diego muttered. "Who?" "My sister." Tom blinked. "You have a sister?" Diego nodded. "She's 4, in foster care. They won't let me near her, but sometimes I just want to see if she's okay." Tom exhaled, rubbing his forehead. "Jesus, kid." "I fell running away," Diego said. "Got caught by some guy who thought I was stealing." I didn't explain. Tom studied him, dirty, bruised, alone, and felt something heavy land in his chest. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you cleaned up." Back at the house, Diego didn't speak much. Vivian looked relieved but didn't smile. She only said, "You scared me." Diego nodded. "I know. I'm sorry." They resumed their evening session, though it moved slower than before. Diego was quiet, his hands shaking slightly. Still, something happened. Vivian managed to lift her foot, just half an inch off the mat, but it was real, deliberate, controlled. She cried. Giselle cried. Tom didn't. He just sat down, quietly, and buried his face in his hands. That night, Diego stood at the edge of the guest house, staring up at the stars. Tom joined him. "I need to ask you something," Tom said. Diego didn't turn. "Okay. What's your plan after this? After the week is over?" Diego shrugged. "Keep moving. Maybe find a better shelter." Tom took a breath. "What if you stayed?" Now Diego turned, surprised. "What?" "I could pull some strings, talk to a few people, maybe get you enrolled in school, somewhere safe. Legal guardianship, maybe." Diego's face was unreadable. "You don't owe me anything," Tom added, "but I think you need someone to believe in you the way Vivian believes in you." Diego looked down. "You think the world works like that?" "I think it can." They stood in silence for a long time. Inside, Vivian slept deeply, one hand resting on her thigh, on a muscle she could feel again. And outside, the boy who once fixed broken things stared at a man who had once believed himself broken too. Sunday morning arrived with soft sunlight spilling through the windows. Giselle laid out a quiet breakfast, eggs, toast, and sliced strawberries, but no one touched their plates. Vivian sat in her wheelchair, her hands clasped in her lap, her eyes wide and focused. Today was the 7th day. Diego sat cross-legged in front of her, calm but clearly tired. Dark circles framed his eyes, and his voice was hoarse from 6 days of whispering instructions, encouragement, and belief. "Do you feel ready?" he asked. Vivian nodded. "I want to try." Tom stood nearby, trying not to show the tremble in his hands. He had prepared himself for disappointment, told himself not to expect anything. But deep down, part of him had already written this moment in his mind 100 times. "Okay," Diego said softly. "Same as before. Start by listening." Vivian closed her eyes. Inhale. Exhale. Her fingers twitched, then her foot. Tom gripped the back of the couch. "Now," Diego whispered. "Tell your knees it's their turn." Her legs shivered slightly, and then, slowly, she shifted forward. Giselle gasped. Tom stepped forward, but Diego lifted a hand. "Let her do it." Vivian's hands gripped the armrests of the wheelchair. Her jaw clenched. The muscles in her thighs tightened. And then she stood, unsteady, shaking. But she stood. Tears fell freely down Tom's face. Giselle pressed her hands to her mouth, crying and laughing at once. Vivian looked at Diego, her face a mix of disbelief and joy. "I did it," she whispered. "You did," he said. "Not me." She took one trembling step, then another. Tom dropped to his knees. Giselle was already behind Vivian, holding her gently, but letting her move. Diego stepped back. "You're going to be okay," he said quietly. Vivian turned. "Aren't you staying?" Diego smiled faintly. "My part's done." Tom rose, walking over, putting a hand on Diego's shoulder. "We talked about this." "I know," Diego said, "and I'm grateful, but I need to see my sister. Just one more time." Tom hesitated. "You don't have to run anymore." Diego looked him in the eyes. "I'm not running, I'm finishing something." A long silence passed. Tom finally nodded. "We'll help you, the right way." "No more sneaking around, we'll talk to a lawyer." "A real one." Diego's eyes widened slightly. "You'd do that?" "For what you gave my daughter," Tom said. "We owe you more than you'll ever know." They hugged, just for a second. Vivian, still standing, whispered, "Promise you'll come back." "I promise," Diego said. "But for now, keep walking. Every day." Little by little. She nodded, smiling through her tears. 2 days later, after meetings with a family attorney and calls to child services, Tom watched Diego walk out of the courthouse holding a temporary visitor's badge and a paper with his sister's name on it. She was in a home only 5 miles away. There was still a long road ahead, legal battles, paperwork, maybe years of healing. But for the first time, Diego wasn't alone, and neither was Vivian. She walked into school the next Monday with a small brace on her knee, a huge smile on her face, and the knowledge that somewhere in the city, the boy who once lived on the corner was changing someone else's life now, just like he changed hers. If this story moved you, if you believe in second chances, quiet heroes, and the power of unexpected kindness, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click the video on screen. It was chosen specifically for you, and trust me, you're going to love it.